Thank you so much, Kathy and Michelle. How beautiful of a message and song in hula. For the past several months, we have been following the teachings of the founder of this movement, the co-founder. We've been on a self-study. We have been moving along the journey as the late Paramahansa Yogananda would say, we've been on the journey to self-realization through the teachings as reflected in Charles Fillmore's writings, The 12 Powers, where he identifies 12 qualities, spiritual qualities of the soul, and suggests that as we become aware of these 12 spiritual qualities, and the more aware we become of them, the more God-like, the more Christ-like, the more God-centered and Christ-centered we become. He identified these 12 faculties and these 12 qualities. And unity, we put a system with it to understand, to learn about the 12 qualities. And we've, in unity, usually adhere to a quality each month. In this month of May, we're focusing on the spiritual quality of divine power. And if you place your ear at the center of your throat, this is your throat chakra. Those of you who are familiar with the chakra systems. And as Reverend Levitt so eloquently stated last week in his message, The Power of the Spoken Word, this is your power center. And your power ability is the ability to speak your word of truth, and to speak your word with conviction. And we understand that the disciple that corresponds with this power center is the disciple Philip. Philip, your ability to speak the word and change your life experiences, and even change your world rests within each of us. When we read about the master teacher and his disciples, we understand in unity and in New Thought, we're not reading so much about history and theology as we're reading about the mystery. His story becomes your story and my story. And in that story, we find ourselves. And as I'll say this over and over and over again, whether you're reading the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Kabbalah, any of the sacred texts, until you can find yourself in it and find it in you, it is simply a dead book. It becomes alive when it becomes alive in you. And you become the walking manuscript that others can look and read and tell that the divine exists in, through, and as you. So we launched this series on the first Sunday of the month, and we called it our 2016 Power Series because we love series so much here, sermon series here at Unity Church. I know how much you love it, so I seek to, give you what you love. We called it The Power to Change the World. And we've been focusing on these qualities of the soul that each and every one of us, we all have them. And we're called to enhance them, to be conscious of them, to work with them so that they can work with us. And today we're focusing on the power to change the world through your power of yes. The power of yes. Let's affirm it 3 times. Yes? Yes. 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 Come on, yes. And we want to understand what this power really is and how we're using it and how we're called to use it. The Hawaiian proverb today is taken from the Hawaiian Proverbs of Poetical Sayings. I invite you to affirm it with me, and I'm going to just listen to see how well you affirm it today. Together. Aia ke ola I ka waha, aia ka make I ka waha. You did rather well. I'm proud of you. And it translates, life is in the mouth. Death is in the mouth. Spoken words can enliven, spoken words can destroy. And I want us to localize this and make it personal. Life is in my mouth. Death is in my mouth. My spoken words can enliven. My spoken words can destroy. And we hear these same words, this same sentiment from Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. It says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So for the past few weeks, we've been focusing on the power of our thoughts and words and how our thoughts and words can not only change the environment in which the inner environment, it can change the outer environment, that our words can change our experiences and change our world. Are there any world changers in here? Or who believe that you have the ability, really, that you have the ability to make a mark and to make an impression on this world, that the world becomes different and better because of your efforts? Who believes that? Yes. And if you don't believe it, I pray that you hang around these truths enough, and by God, you'll eventually begin to believe it. The power to change the world. And this message is in part inspired by the writings of Tanya Raymond in her book, The Yes Factor. Get what you want and say what you mean. I remember hearing these words growing up. Was it mean what you say and say what you mean? Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. But whichever it is, mean it and to say it, decree it. In this book, she talks about how our yes can establish a positive environment that is instrumental and essential in revealing, identifying, and even nurturing the talents, abilities, skills, power, and creativity that each one of us have. That when we say yes, and the ability to say yes charges the environment, it changes the atmosphere, and it transforms it into something conducive in order for the thing that you're saying yes to and for to live and exist in our world. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Consciousness will be accommodated. And the environment is not only this environment outside of you, whether it's in your relationship, on your job, where you're working, the church, in the city. The first environment is the inner environment. That when we change it and work with it, up-level it, then the environment become conducive for us to grow and to flourish spiritually. Michael Beckwith says that we are effulgent beings, and we're always unfolding and becoming more. And when the environment is conducive to your growth, you can reach levels and dimensions that you cannot even fathom. Anybody ever been loved? You entered a relationship, you say, I've never known love like this before. Ooh, I just feel like I'm a better me because, raise your hand, come on. Are there any witnesses in here? If you're not a witness, hang around with somebody, touch and agree, and the law of attraction will find that thing, get it to you. So I've never known this. I've never known that I could be like this before. I've never known that I had this much good inside of me. I didn't know that I could do all of this. I've become my best self. And when the environment is right for that, friends, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered the heart and mind of man or woman who and what you can become. Then the word becomes true. No man can even fathom what the power of God in you can do. That when the environment is really conducive for us to understand who we are in God and who God is in, through, and as us, all things become possible to them that believe. Yes, 3 simple letters that carry so much power. Yes, can open the doors of opportunity. Yes, can get you the job that you've been looking for. Yes, can get you the promotion. And yes, can even get you a raise, put more money in your pocket. Your yes. Your yes has the power. Yes can seal the deal. Now, how many of you have ever been proposed to? Or how many of you have ever proposed? Come on, let's see that. You've either been proposed to or you made a proposal. Now, what sealed the deal? Did your no seal the deal? Your yes sealed the deal. Will you marry me? What was the answer? Yes. Your yes. Yes is the deal maker, and no is the deal breaker in this universe. Your yes makes the deal, and your no breaks the deal. And sometimes unconsciously, we embody the mentality of no that rejects the good before it can even get to us. We have this force field around us that says, no, and the good stops. But when we cultivate the mind, get the heart groomed and nurtured and pruned and ready for the yes of life. And when you say yes to any manner of good, you're really saying yes to God. You know that. Because God and good is synonymous. There's no separation. If you say yes to any manner of good, you are saying yes to God. If the thing that's coming forth into your life, world, and affairs is good for you, is helping you to become your better self, to do more, to be more, to change this world, make it better, then that is of God. And when we say no to it, and usually people say no out of a sense of fear. No is usually fear-based. It comes from a place of fear. And we say no usually because we don't know what's on the other side of it. And where we are is more familiar. Not to say it's more comfortable. It's just familiar. And people have manipulated themselves into thinking that familiarity is comfortability. Is that it? Is that the word? But familiarity can simply be just familiarity. The question I've said it before, someone asked the question, why is that people would rather suffer known hells than pursue unknown heavens? Because they have been so stuck in their no and cannot believe that something bigger, better, greater, more expensive is waiting on the other side and just waiting for them to say yes. Yes to life. Yes to God. The yes factor is what allows us to move forward with our goals and to achieve our dreams. I have two questions I want to ask you today. The first question I would like to ask you to consider is, have you ever said no to something that you really, really wanted to do? Raise your hand if that's you. And you found yourself living with some sense of regret. If I've only said yes to that. Has life ever presented you with an opportunity to which you wanted to say yes, but because of your fear, you said no? Raise your hand. It is my prayer that as we continue this discussion, that we'll find the ability and the power to stand firmly on our yes. For yes is a power word. Let's say it again 3 times. Yes. Come on. Yes. Yes. Yes has been said. It has been said that the power of yes is a measure of our soul. Saying yes with conviction produces an affirmative mindset, and it is a way of opening up to the power of the universe, the power of God, and allowing transformation to begin in our lives. Yes has magic within it. You didn't know that, did you? And so often we are afraid of life. We fear failure. We anticipate the worst. We don't know what to expect, and we live in the no. And in so doing, what happens is that the no often rejects the opportunities that God is bringing our way. Those life's brilliant chances. You know, those brilliant chances come disguised at times. They come disguised as a new career prospect. Comes disguised as a new opportunity. It could be a new opportunity to step up in your relationship, in business, or at work. It could be a new opportunity to step up even in like a spiritual community such as this. Those life brilliant chances come disguised as surprises, a surprise request of a friend or family, or any type of unfamiliar challenge. Like I was recently asked, when I have to drive someplace, my initial instinct is no. If I have to drive beyond my 5-6 block radius of where I live and work, I live very close to here. If I have to drive too far, my initial instinct is no, I'm not going to do that. When I think about the traffic. And I had this experience, or sometimes in traveling, and I was asked to visit the Big Island. And it was really interesting. And I'm like, well, I really don't have time. I got all this stuff going. And I wanted to go and meet with the minister there in this spiritual community. And I got to the Big Island. And I know those of you, this is nothing new to you, but it was profound for me. And it was my first time there. And I flew in on the Kona side. And there arriving, I'm like, where are we? Anybody have that experience when you... I'm like, this doesn't look like Earth. I know I'm flying on Hawaiian Airlines, I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like, I didn't see any trees. I didn't see any, palm trees, no, is it plumerias? I didn't see any of those things. And I was there, and I began to observe the land. But when I made it to the Gila side, I'm like, okay, this is what I know. But there, something happened. And there I believe, God, life is always, there's a meaning to everything if we seek it and get it. There's a meaning. I don't care what it is. It can be a challenge. It can be the most challenging experience of your life. It could be a health condition, a health challenge. It could be a relationship challenge. It could be a financial challenge. There is a meaning in it and some good. And I was there and I was observing this and I was looking around and I saw at times like a blade of grass or these weeds and occasions of trees growing out of a rock. I'm like, how in the world could this tree grow out of a dead rock? And I observed it and I realized that there was a message in it. The power of yes. That the tree that started as a seed that was blown by the ruah or the pneuma, the wind, found its way on the rock in some kind of way with its power of yes to live, found its way in the subgrata aspect of that rock, tapped into some soil some kind of way, was so determined to live. The yes to live pressed its way up towards the sun. And the sun got a hold of it, and that little seed became a tree today. Friends, there's power in your yes. Your yes to live. Your yes to be well. Your yes to do well and to do better. There's so much power in it. I remember the writings of Reverend Sue Sicking, who was the founder of the church that I served, Unity Church, which was the premier church, one of the premier Unity churches in Los Angeles. I was privileged to serve as a senior minister there, Unity by the Sea. And she wrote this book saying, God always says yes. But the mind of man is so stuck in no that God's yes can't reach him. The universe is always saying yes. Plant a seed. I don't care what kind of seed it is, the universe will say yes and produce it. Sow an idea, and the universe will produce it. It says anything that creates a spark of curiosity within us or generates some desire that typically lays dormant within our so familiar, mundane, routine life is often our intuition guiding us to say yes or at least learn more about it. I love this quote by Robert Branson. He says, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you are not sure that you can do it, just say yes. Then learn how to do it later. Friends, the energy of no brings resistance and creates a block. Now, we should, by all means, learn to say no to those things that might be inappropriate or at an inappropriate time. To say no, that fear response to a child when the child is actually moving unconsciously towards some danger. No to that. But the power of saying yes to whatever is showing up can move mountains. I invite you to hear these words as I prepare to close from 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 20 through 21. It says, for no matter how many promises God has made, listen closely. Somebody needs to get this morning. It says, no matter how many promises God has made, they are all yes in Christ. Now, it is God who makes us stand firm in Christ in the image and likeness of God. God anointed us, set the seal of ownership on us, and put the yes, the Spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Friends, this is good news, that the promises of God are repeatable. Yes, God says. There is only an eternal yes in infinite mind. There's only an eternal yes in divine mind. There is only an eternal yes in the mind of God. And delayed does not mean denied. Delay does not mean no. Yes might not be right now, but you better believe it's a yes. It might not look like it, but it's still a yes. It might come at the 11th hour and 59th second, but God still says yes. If you want a more exciting life, then develop a yes mentality. Say yes to some new sample of food this week. Say yes if you've always eaten bland food with no seasoning, no, just bland. I'm going to say, I'm thinking about coming in with a new hairstyle. I'm going to say, change it up a little. Put a little spice in your life. Mix it up a little bit. Step out of your comfort zone and say yes for a change. Some new opportunity come your way rather than stepping into fear. No, I can't do it. Say yes, but just say yes and trust God and say, God, I know this is some good in it, so I'm going to get it. A few reasons very quickly why we want to say yes in your life. For you block your miracle if you don't. Opportunity sometimes knock gently and does not wait for the perfect timing. The truth is there is no perfect timing. We must trust God, trust the universe, and step out and do it. The second reason is that yes leads us to more doors, and no is often closing the doors. This reminds me of the story. The story is told of a young man who dreamed of being an actor. But in the 1980s, he wasn't getting the big roles and big parts that he really wanted, that he saw in his dream, in his heart. The young man grew up poor. He was so poor that his family lived in a Volkswagen van at one time as their home. It says one day this young, broke, and discouraged man drove his old beat-up car to the top of a hill overlooking the city of Los Angeles. And he did something unusual. He began to say yes to his dream. He said yes to his aspiration. He said yes to the vision of his heart. He said yes to being and becoming a successful actor on the big screen, and he wrote himself a check for $10 million and wrote in the note, for acting services rendered. He put that check in his wallet and kept it there, and when things really got tough, when he needed to be reminded of his yes, and sometimes we need to be reminded that God has already said yes, he would pull out that check from his wallet and he would look at it and be reminded of the power of his yes. And it says years later, this young, broke, discouraged man, comedian Jim Carrey, not only made 10, but he would get 15 to $25 million for every movie. Friends, there is power in your yes, in our ability to believe. Life is richer and fuller, more vibrant when we say yes. Opportunities do not always arise again, or at least the same way, so it behooves us to learn to say yes. Stretch yourself and say yes. For your yes attracts positivity. That's your cue. When we say yes, we do more. We create more. We live more. It reminds me of the lady just recently. It wasn't even 2 weeks ago. In fact, I was in New York City when I heard about it. It says this lady with 8 children was a minister, and she had a dream. In the dream, she saw some numbers, and she began to write those numbers down. And something inside of her told this minister, you need to go and get yourself a ticket. It wasn't a train ticket. It wasn't a Greyhound ticket. It wasn't a ticket on Delta, Southwest, United, American Airlines, or Hawaiian. It says go and get yourself a lottery ticket. Then the minister says something inside of her initially said no, that it goes against your calling and goes against what you believe. But she began to push her way through the crowds of no. She found her way in agreement with yes. She made her way to the counter, and there she purchased herself a ticket. And I would tell you, rumor has it, and the news reported it, that this lady who said yes struck gold $486 million because she said yes. Now, friends, let me tell you something. It is no secret what God can do. What God has done from one, God can do for me and you. If God has given you the promise that you'll be made whole, that you can be healed, that this will pass, you go stand in the face of any diagnosis. You can stand in the face of any prognosis. And you can say, God has already told me that it's so. And I say yes to my healing today. I say yes to my well-being. I say yes, God has already promised it. Get up and get it. Say yeah to it.